we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Go on.
Can I say something?
No, you were not enslaved, so it's not your history.
No, I said descendant of those people.
Why do you people all identify with all black people?
Jesus Christ.
I don't know why you calling his name. You don't identify with him.
I'm just so proud, and it's a great time to be a Black American, I'll tell you that much.
Black conservatives.
Yeah, I'm up now. Yeah, I'm up now. Up now. Yeah, I'm up now. I do my own thing 'cause I'm up now.
One of the main arguments that you'll hear from black conservatives is that the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln. Lincoln, who abolished slavery. The Republican Party is the party of Martin Luther King. One of, if not the greatest, civil rights leader in the world. Absent of context, all those things are technically true. So the question is, why are there so few black conservatives in the actual Republican Party today? We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's video, but first, we're going to talk a little bit about the Democrat and Republican Party history.
No such thing as racism, sexism, homophobism, Islamophobism.
So let's talk a little bit about that history. Yes, in the past, it was true that the Democratic Party wasn't just a party that was racist. It was a party that was vehemently and aggressively racist. It was a party that fought hard for the right to keep slaves. And the party remained that way for about 200 years. And then a little thing happened during the 1960s, something known as the Civil Rights Movement. During the 1960s, the president in the White House at the time was Lyndon Baines Johnson, a Democrat who was also a segregationist and also a racist. But he signed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s. And that move changed everything. And that's going to lead me to my next point about a little thing called the Southern Strategy. The strategy was to racially antagonize white Southern voters to get them to come out to vote. They did this a lot of times with hot button issues. So, for example, the first one was busing, right? Immediately following integration, it was a way to keep segregation. It was a way to keep white areas white and black areas black. So then there was these tricky baziki type of marketing terms and words to get around the fact of, we don't want black kids in our white schools. Period, point blank, end of story. And on and on and on the nonsense went. And it led up all the way to the point where the Republican Party apologized for it in 2005 to the NAACP. This is something that Candice Owens and a bunch of other black conservatives say never happened when it did. Look it up.
And these are all words that have been said over and over again about black conservatives when they have the audacity to think for themselves and become educated about our history and the myth of things like the Southern Switch and the Southern Strategy, which never happened.
She is a liar.
It was good until they elected the first black mayor.
Wow.
All hell broke loose.
So what do you
say?
say? What do you mean first black? Was it a problem with the first black mayor?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because it gave black Americans their permission to go wild. They attacked white Americans, blacks and Hispanics were fighting. At the time, I was at Edison High School.
Yes.
And just before they elected the black mayor, it was a nice school. Not a lot.
So you're
of
saying
violence.
a white mayor was better?
Yes.
Really?
And that brings us to another aspect of black conservatism. That is the inability to ever, and I mean ever, point out issues that are within the conservative party. At all times, there has to be an equivocation, there has to be a misdirection, there has to be an obfuscation, there has to be something that points away blame from the actual issue to something else.
When you say make America great again, which period are we talking about? The period when women couldn't vote? The period when we were hanging from trees?
I'll answer.
Or like the crack era? Which period in America are you trying to make America like
So
again?
I actually think that I would totally rock a hat right now that said make Black America great again. Because Black America...
make America.
Before,
We're talking about make America. That wasn't the question.
I am answering your question.
Which period was America great that we're trying to replicate?
Well,
Which era was it? Tell me.
I think... I'll answer your question.
Tell me.
I'm ready to answer your question.
Which era was it?
What?
Which era was so great?
Here's the thing that you guys are forgetting. America was actually one of the... Slavery was all over the world. All over the world. America was... No, I'm not saying it's okay, so why are you saying, oh?
Hey, man.
America was one of the first countries...
I want to like you so bad.
I'm trying to answer your question.
Smart. I want to like you so much.
I can't answer the question.
I want to hear y'all. I want to be able to hear them. I want to be able to hear them.
If I can't answer the question and you're just going to boo when I say slavery was all over the world, which is a fact, why are you booing a fact?
Because you're making light of...
No, I'm not.
You're making light of the enslavement of people that look like us. You can't make light of that. That ain't nothing you breeze over.
I haven't even finished the sentence. How am I making light of anything?
You started with some bull.
For example, Candice Owens' recent popular video talking about how she doesn't support George Floyd or the recent Black Lives Matter protests because George Floyd had skeletons in his closet, without mentioning the fact that these protests aren't about George Floyd or just even those cops in Minnesota. These protests are about a system that is broken at every level for Black Americans. And Candice Owens doesn't seem to recognize that, doesn't seem to want to speak about that, doesn't even seem to want to fix that, let alone acknowledge that those realities exist. No, that's not important to Candice Owens or to other Black conservatives. What's important, what's really important, is that a Target got looted and windows got broken at certain businesses. That's what's more important. Not a system of criminal justice that unfairly and unjustly and improperly affects minorities. That's not important. Let's talk about Black on Black crime. Let's talk about abortion. Let's talk about everything else except for the issue at hand. You can always build another building. You can't ever bring a father back into a child's life. But to Black conservatives, buildings matter, but Black lives don't.
This is out of control behavior. I'll tell you what she faces danger, and where she faces danger. It's being on the street in any American ghetto where the Black on Black crime is a bigger threat and a bigger problem in the Black community than the police use of force.
And that leads me to my third and final point about Black conservatives. And it's just a simple question. Why? 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 And the answer to that question is it's a very lucrative business opportunity. If you're a Black person calling out Black people, there's a lot of conservatives that will pay to watch and support that kind of content. This content reinforces their own negative stereotypes about Black people. You see, I'm not racist for saying all Black people are lazy. Look, Candice Owens said it. I'm not racist for saying that there's a problem with Black America or Black communities. Look, Sheriff David A. Clarke said it. And that's just how the game is played. They manipulate people over and over again that are confused or maybe uninformed to maintain money, power, and above all else, relevance.
But this is directly correlated to the work that he has done to shrink government and to slash regulations. And I'm just so proud, and it's a great time to be a Black American, I'll tell you that much.
What more needs to be done?
I think he needs to just continue down the same path that he's on. I think the best thing that we can do is get the message out there to the Black community.
To close out this video, Black conservatives say all the things that the GOP wants them to say. And man, do they get paid handsomely for
it. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.